Nobody noticed when the silence began. Pastor Bartholomew had always been reserved. His wife, Amaka, was the friendly one, the kind who brought food to the neighbors. Their kids, Muna and Favor, used to play hide and seek near the tree. Then, one day, the laughter stopped. Weeks passed. No lights in the church compound, no children running. Amaka and the children were nowhere to be seen. And whenever the members asked, Pastor Barthol would smile faintly and say they had traveled. The neighbors waited. Day 1, day 2, day 3. They knocked again. Pastor Bartholomew, is Amaka home? He opened the door a little, just a little. They traveled, he said. His voice was soft, like wind behind a closed window. Oh, where to? Mama Chinyere asked. Bartholomew gave a small smile, the kind that had no teeth. Just to the village, for some rest. He didn't say more. He closed the door gently, but nobody saw a car leave. Nobody saw suitcases. Nobody saw goodbye hugs. Just one day they were here, and the next, gone. Little did they know. Beneath the very floor they stood on during worship, beneath the polished altar tiles, they had been buried. Amaka, Muna, Favor, by the same man of God they all believed in. Bartholomew was just 17 when he started the work of God, a boy with long arms, dry lips, and fire in his bones. He had no father, no mother, just a Bible, and a voice that believed God could hear him. Every morning, before the cocks finished crowing, Bartholomew stepped out barefoot. No slippers, no sandals. The sand burnt his toes, but he didn't stop. His Bible stayed close to his chest like a second heart. Good morning, Mama Ijoma, he would greet as he passed the stall. Let me pray for your legs again. And the old woman would nod, smiling. God bless you, my son. Even if the legs don't move, your prayer gives me hope. He would kneel beside her, touch her knees, and whisper, Lord, make her stand. Then he would smile, say, Amen, and walk to the next house. People liked him. They called him Brother Bartholomew, the barefoot boy preacher, the one who never asked for money, never begged for food, never shouted, just prayed. But Sunday was always different. On Sundays, he would wear his cleanest shirt, white but old, tuck it into his faded trousers, and walk to the little plywood church beside the town borehole. He would sweep the floor, arrange the benches, wipe the wooden pulpit, set the one-standing fan by the corner, then kneel. Lord, send them, he prayed. Let them come today. But they didn't. The sun would rise, the air would grow hot, and Brother Bartholomew would still be standing there, preaching to empty seats, sweat falling down his face like rain on dry land. Once in a while, a madman would walk in, sit, listen, clap, then stand and leave, laughing at the ceiling. Bartholomew never stopped, even when the benches looked like rows of ghosts, even when the sound of other churches filled the air, big speakers, loud drums, crowds shouting, Amen. He would look up, tears in his eyes, still preaching, still believing. People talked. Why is he wasting time? He has fire but no followers. Go and learn from Pastor Clement. That one has miracles. But Bartholomew said nothing. He passed the big churches with high walls and cars parked outside. He saw pastors in gold watches and Italian shoes. He saw women falling down when hands touched them, and he walked by, holding his Bible tight. At night, he would sit under the mango tree, alone, looking at the stars. God, he whispered, what am I doing wrong? No answer came. Only the sound of frogs croaking in the bush. only the wind shaking the leaves like clapping hands that didn't know who they were clapping for. He was still a boy, but he carried hope like a heavy sack. He wanted to serve. He wanted to heal. He wanted to be seen. But every Sunday, the church stayed quiet, and the boy called Bartholomew stood alone, speaking to chairs, smiling at air, holding on to faith that felt too big for one small heart, until one day when everything changed. It was a hot Tuesday afternoon, the kind of afternoon when lizards pause mid-run and trees refuse to sway. Bartholomew had just finished praying at Mama Agbo's house. He was about to leave when someone shouted from across the road, "Brother Barthol, please come quick." He ran, fast like a boy chasing his own shadow. When he got there, a small child was lying on a bamboo mat. Her lips were dry. Her chest moved like a tired bellows. "She has not eaten in 2 days," the grandmother said, kneeling beside the girl. "I've used herbs. I've prayed. I've even blown into her nose. Nothing." Bartholomew sat beside the child. He touched her head. It was hot, like a fire hidden in skin. He closed his eyes, held her hands, whispered, "Lord, not this one, please." He stayed there for a while, didn't shout, didn't wave, just prayed. Then he stood up slowly and said, "She'll be fine." The grandmother looked at him. "You sure?" He nodded. "Yes, Mama. God is near." He left. The next morning, the woman ran to his church. Her wrapper almost fell off her shoulder. "Barthol, Barthol," she shouted. She stood up. She ate. She asked for pap this morning. Bartholomew smiled. His eyes watered. "Thank you, Lord," he whispered. The woman held his hands tightly. Her own hands were rough, like old yam peel. "You're a good boy," she said. But then she looked around. The empty benches, the quiet church, and she shook her head. "Barthol," she said, "a good heart is not enough." He blinked. "Mama, you want people to come here, yes?" "Yes, Mama. I just want them to come, to know God." She nodded slowly. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. "I know a place, far inside the bush, a place where real power lives." Bartholomew looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Power," she said again. "The kind that fills churches, the kind that makes people shout your name. That kind." Bartholomew laughed. "Mama, I just want God's power." She smiled. The kind of smile that looks like it's hiding something. "Even God sees those who help themselves." He said nothing. He bowed and thanked her. But inside, something had cracked open, like a window letting in a wind he didn't understand. That evening, he walked through the town. He passed a crusade happening near the market. A big white tent, speakers that shouted louder than thunder. People singing, dancing, clapping like the world had no sorrow. Then came the miracle. A blind man was led to the altar. The pastor shouted, "Open your eyes!" The man screamed, fell, got up, and shouted, "I can see! I can see!" The crowd went wild. People rolled on the ground. Others lifted chairs. Phones were in the air, cameras flashing like lightning. Bartholomew stood at the back, frozen. His hands shook. His chest tightened. Nobody had ever shouted for him. No camera had ever blinked in his direction. He walked away, slowly, quietly. As he walked home, his Bible felt heavier. His legs were tired. His mind was noisy. He sat in front of his small church, looked up at the sky, and said nothing. But deep inside his heart, the old woman's voice repeated softly, "I know a place." And that night, he stood up and headed straight for the old woman's house. Bartholomew stood at Mama's gate. His shirt was wet with sweat. His Bible left behind. She opened the door before he knocked, like she had been waiting. I'm ready, he said, his voice shaking. She didn't ask why. She just picked her wrapper from the wall, tied it firm, and nodded. Follow me. They walked, past the last house in the village, past the small stream that frogs loved, past the graves near the old palm tree. The forest swallowed them like hot fufu in a greedy mouth. Crickets sang. Owls watched. The path grew narrow. But Mama kept walking. No fear, no talk. Then they reached a place where even the air stopped moving. A small clearing, red sand, 7 women standing in a circle. Their faces were painted with white chalk, like ghosts that remembered how to cry. They wore no smiles, no shoes, only black wrappers that touched their toes. In the middle of the circle, a clay bowl smoked. Thick black smoke. The smell was like burnt hair and old blood. Mama stepped back. One of the women spoke. Her voice was dry, like broom on concrete. You want power? Bartholomew swallowed. Yes. Another stepped forward. She had marks on her cheeks like 3 claws. She opened her hand. Inside it, a black ring, smooth, cold, shiny, like oil at night. She held it up. Wear this. From today, when you touch the sick, they will rise. When you pray, people will fall. When you speak, crowds will gather. Bartholomew looked at the ring, then at the women, then at the smoke. He nodded. She slipped the ring on his finger. It felt like ice crawling into his veins. Then the oldest of them stepped forward. Her eyes were white, no pupils. She pointed a long finger at him. But listen, she said, power is not free. The others echoed, not free. She continued, anytime we come for sacrifice, you must do it, and do it alone. No one must see you, ever. If anyone sees you while the sacrifice is happening, they must die. And they must be buried right where they die. Bartholomew blinked. His throat was dry. What kind of sacrifice? He asked. They didn't answer. They turned their backs. The smoke rose higher. The ground rumbled softly. Mama touched his arm. It is done, she whispered. Go home. Bartholomew turned, walked back through the dark forest. Every sound felt louder. Every tree looked like it had eyes. When he got home, he stared at his finger. The black ring shone in the candlelight. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in his life, he prayed without calling God's name. The morning after the first night, Bartholomew stood in his small church again. His eyes were red, his voice calm, his heart beat like a talking drum. An old woman was carried in. Her legs were stiff like dry wood. They placed her on the last bench. She had not walked in years. Bartholomew touched her head. His hand shook. The black ring pressed against her forehead. He whispered, Rise. The woman opened her eyes. Then she moved her foot. Then the other. Then she stood. I can walk, she cried. I can walk. The people outside heard. They rushed in like floodwater. Voices rose. Hands clapped. And that was how it began. The next Sunday, the church was full. The Sunday after, people stood outside, holding babies, holding crutches, holding hope. They didn't call him brother again. He was now Pastor Bartho, the boy who made blind eyes open and deaf ears jump. His name filled the streets. Vendors shouted, Buy water, prayed on by Pastor Bartho. Buses had his stickers. Phones rang with his voice preaching. Money came. Brown envelopes, checks, offers. Big men came. They knelt before him. Cameras flashed. TV stations called. He stopped wearing slippers. Now he wore suits that smelled of power. His shoes shined like black glass. Then, one evening, the old woman came again, the same one who took him into the bush. She stood at his office door, smiling softly. "You're doing well," she said. "People believe now," she added. Bartholomew looked up, his eyes heavy with pride and fear. "What do you want?" he asked. She sat, her fingers tapping his glass table. "It is time," she said. "Build the real church, the one that will last." Bartho blinked. "I have a building plan. It's starting next month." She nodded. "Good. But before you lay the foundation, you must offer blood." "Blood?" "7 cows," she said. "Slaughter them. Let their blood soak the soil. Let their bones be the pillars. Only then will the power stay." Bartho nodded slowly. He didn't argue. That night, when the town was asleep, he went alone. The land for the new church was wide, silent, watching. He brought the cows one by one. No driver, no lights, no songs, only the moon, only him. He pulled the knife. The cows cried. He cut. The blood soaked into the ground. It ran like a red river, warm, thick, quiet. He dug with his hands, buried the heads, the bones, the horns. When he was done, he knelt. "Let this church stand forever," he whispered. And the wind around him clapped, not loudly, but just enough to say, the spirits had heard. The new church rose like a king's palace. Tall walls, bright paint, marble tiles that shone like morning dew, red carpet from the gate to the altar. Sound system so loud it could wake a sleeping spirit. People now called it Fire Mountain Cathedral. They came from far villages, from other states. They brought their problems. They left with testimonies. Pastor Bartho no longer walked. He was driven in black jeeps, escorted by men in suits, holding walkie-talkies. And then, one sunny morning, he smiled differently. Amaka walked into church beside him, slim waist, round face, eyes full of peace. They said their vows at the altar. He kissed her softly. People clapped. People cried. Pastor has finally married. And Amaka, she was light. She cooked. She shared food. She hugged members like they were family. Even children followed her around, calling her Mommy Pastor. Then Muna came. Then Favor followed. 2 boys with wide smiles and sharp eyes. They played around the mango tree. They laughed like wind chimes in Harmattan breeze. But power is greedy, and spirits never forget a deal. One night, as Bartho prayed in his office, a cold air entered. No door opened, no curtain moved, but he felt it. Then he heard it, the voice. More. He stood still. The ring on his finger burned. His chest tightened. Then he heard it again. Bring more. So he nodded. From that day, he made a new routine. Every time the women came asking for sacrifice, he waited. He waited until the house was still. Amaka snoring softly, Muna hugging his teddy, Favor holding a biscuit in his sleep. Then Bartho would rise, quietly, no footsteps, no sound. He wore black, carried his tools, and stepped into the night. Behind the church, under the floor that held the altar, he dug. He poured blood. He whispered the names of the spirits. Each cow fell with a cry. He cut quickly, buried the remains, wiped the ground, cleaned the knife. By morning, no one knew. No one smelled blood. No one heard screams. Only Bartho knew. And the spirits. And every time he stood to preach, the crowd screamed, "Power!" The miracles doubled, the money tripled. But the ground beneath the church was growing red. Time moved like wind, fast, quiet, always passing. Bartho's church was no longer just a church. It was a city, a sea of seeds. a river of voices, a mountain of miracles. He no longer walked into services. He entered with trumpet sound and dancers. They called it the entrance of grace. People fell before he touched them. Others shouted his name like a song. Papa, my Papa, man of fire, man that sees tomorrow. He barely lifted a finger, and blind eyes opened. He laughed, and wombs received babies. He whispered, and madness ran away. Men gave cars, women sold lands, children brought piggy banks. The church was now on TV, billboards, radio, even in taxis. Drivers played his voice during traffic. Barthol sat on golden chairs. His suits came from abroad. His perfume smelt like royalty. He barely held his Bible anymore. And through it all, Amaka stayed beside him. Kind, gentle, smiling like she didn't know what slept under the altar. Mona and Favor had grown tall, sharp like fresh-cut glass. They played keyboards, led prayer points, even mimicked their father's hand movements. But power, like a hungry lion, never stays full. One rainy evening, while Amaka made okra soup in the kitchen and the boys played games in their room, the old woman appeared again. Barthol was in his office, reading through partnership deals. Then, a knock, a soft knock, the kind that made his skin crawl. He opened the door. There she stood, her wrapper darker, her eyes whiter, her voice colder. You have done well, she said, but power grows, and so must your sacrifice. Barthol didn't argue. He just nodded slowly. How many? He asked. 30, she said. 30 cows. Tonight. Tonight? Yes, before the moon rests. Barthol stood, his hand on the ring. I'll do it. That night, he didn't wait for sleep to come. He gave Amaka sleeping pills. He told the boys to pray until you sleep. Then he went out. Rain still falling lightly like someone washing the sky. He entered the church, locked the door, lit the candles. 30 cows, one by one. Blood poured, the tiles drank, the spirits watched. He wiped sweat from his face. He whispered the names he was taught. Then, a creak, soft, slow. Behind him, Barthol turned, the knife in his hand, the blood still dripping. Someone was there. Someone was watching. His eyes widened. It was her, Amaka. She hadn't been able to sleep that night. Something pressed her chest like stone. She sat up, touched her head, and whispered, "Maybe water will help." She walked slowly to the kitchen, the cup in her hand. But then, a sound, faint, from the church, like iron dragging the floor, like an animal crying softly. She turned toward the hallway, her wrapper brushing her ankles. She paused at the back door. It was open, just a little. She stepped out, barefoot. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still wet. She walked toward the church. The air smelled like rust and fire. She reached the door, pushed it gently. It creaked, just a little. Her eyes moved to the altar, and she froze. Bartholomew stood there, his hands red, the floor redder, a dead cow at his feet, candles burning like ghosts. Her hands flew to her mouth. Jesus! Barthol turned like a thief caught in sunlight, his eyes wide, his chest rising fast. He dropped the knife. Amaka! Her voice trembled. What is this? He stepped forward, hands raised like a beggar. Please, don't say anything. But Amaka stepped back, her lips shaking, tears running like river from her chin. This is evil, Barthol, she cried. You're killing animals inside God's house. He nodded slowly. You don't understand. I will tell them, she said. I will tell everyone what I saw. Barthol's knees shook. The ring on his finger felt hot. He whispered, "Amaka, please." But she turned and ran, straight to the door, straight to the end. Amaka ran fast, her legs hitting the ground like thunder. Her wrapper loosened, her voice raised. "Help! Somebody help!" She reached the big doors, tried to push. But Barthel caught up. He grabbed her arm. "Wait, just listen." She struggled. "Let go of me." He pulled her back. "No one must know," he said. "The covenant, if they find out, everything ends." She shouted louder. "Let me go. You're mad." Then he placed his hand over her mouth. "Please, please." Amaka kicked. She scratched. Her fingers found his face, but he didn't stop. He cried as he held her. "I'm sorry. I didn't want this." But she didn't stop fighting. Her eyes screamed louder than her voice. Then her body dropped. Still gone. Barthel stepped back. His hands covered his face. "No, no." Then footsteps, small, bare, voices. "Daddy?" Muna stood at the door. Behind him, Favor clutched a teddy bear. "What happened to Mommy?" Muna asked. "Why is her face red?" Favor added. Barthel turned. Tears covered his cheeks. He shook his head. "My boys, go back inside, please." But they stepped forward, and they saw. Muna screamed. Favor dropped the teddy. Barthel's voice broke. "Don't look. Close your eyes." But it was too late. They had seen, and the rule was clear. No one must see. He stepped toward them, hands trembling, feet slow. "I'm sorry." By morning, the sun rose over the church. The altar was quiet. The floor tiles were clean again. No blood, no sound, no laughter. But under the ground, 3 new graves slept. Amaka, Muna, Favor, all buried beneath the altar, all sealed with silence. Barthel sat alone in the front pew, staring at nothing, whispering prayers that had no end. Sunday came again. The sky was clear. The church compound was full. Cars parked outside, chairs arranged, drums rolling. But there was no Amaka at the gate, no Muna chasing lizards, no Favor sitting near the speakers. Mama Chinyere noticed first. Where is Mommy Pastor?" Another woman added, "I haven't seen the boys in 2 weeks." A man near the usher stand asked, "Did they travel?" Pastor Barthel walked in, white suit, calm face, Bible in one hand. The other hand waved softly as the crowd clapped. Someone near the front called out, "Daddy, we missed Mommy and the children all." He smiled softly, like a mask hiding a wound. "They traveled," he said, "to her mother's place, just to rest." "Oh," the people nodded. "Hope they're fine?" "They are," Barthel replied. They didn't ask more. They didn't press, because miracles still happened. People still got healed. Babies still came. Money still flowed. And the altar? It looked even brighter now. The tiles clean. The flowers fresh. The red carpet thick like royal blood. Barthel preached that morning like nothing was missing. He shouted, he danced, he declared fire. But under his feet, the ground held a secret. Right beneath the very place he stood to pray. 3 souls slept, quiet, cold, covered by cement and lies. Amaka, Muna, Favor, and the church? It kept clapping, kept shouting, kept believing, because the lie was soft and the truth was buried. Weeks passed. Sundays came and went. Barthel preached. Crowds shouted. Offerings flowed like river in rainy season. But one Tuesday morning, just before midweek service, something changed. A smell. Not strong at first, just a quiet, sour whisper in the air. Mama Chinyere wrinkled her nose. Is something spoiling?" A young usher near the altar sniffed the air. "Maybe something died under the pulpit?" Flies came. Not plenty at first, Just 3, buzzing slowly near the altar. Then 5, then 10. Then they rested on the tiles like tiny black dots. Barto stood on the pulpit that evening. He noticed the stairs. He noticed the smell. After service, he brought out a spray, a fine one, imported from Dubai. He sprayed everywhere, then lit candles, then burned frankincense. But the smell didn't leave. It stayed, like a memory that refused to die. The next day, he told the cleaners, "Clean the altar well. Maybe something spilled." But even after scrubbing, the smell returned. This time stronger. This time angrier. Someone whispered, "Is there something buried here?" Barto heard it. His heart jumped. His hands shook. He stood alone by the pulpit that night, looking down at the floor tiles, eyes wide, mouth dry, and under his breath he said, "Please, don't rise." Samuel was just 24, a youth corps member, tall, brown-skinned, full of dreams, posted to serve at Fire Mountain Cathedral. He cleaned, he arranged chairs, he typed sermon slides, he prayed often. That Tuesday morning, he came early, Bible in one hand, mop in the other. He started at the back, then moved to the altar. As he wiped the tiles, his eyes caught something, a small crack near the edge, barely there. Thin like spider web. He bent down, touched it. Part of the tile gave way. He stood up straight, looked around. Nobody was watching. He squatted again, took a chisel, tapped gently. More tile broke. Then something hit his nose. A smell. Not normal, not alive. He gagged, covered his face. But curiosity pulled him back. He pushed deeper. Then something black, soft. He reached in, pulled slightly. Hair. A strand. Human. He dropped it and jumped back. His voice cracked. "Jesus!" But he couldn't stop. He dug more. Then he saw it. A hand. Dark. Dry. Still wearing a gold ring. Samuel screamed, "Oh my God!" He fell backward, kicked the bucket over. Water splashed across the floor. People outside heard the scream. They ran in. Ushers, church workers, cleaners. Samuel pointed. "There's something under the altar. There's a body. There's something there." A woman peeked in, fainted. Another ran out shouting, "Call the police! Call the police!" Barto, who had just stepped into the church from his office, froze when he heard the screams. He saw them all gathered. He saw Samuel sitting on the floor, shaking. And when the eyes met, Samuel pointed at him. "You knew? You knew?" The sky over Fire Mountain Cathedral turned gray. The smell had opened a grave, and now truth was crawling out. Police arrived first, their sirens loud, their boots heavy. Then came journalists, with cameras, with questions. They pointed at the altar. "Dig it," the police said. Workers brought tools. They hit the tiles. The floor cracked open like dry bread. People gathered, church members, neighbors, strangers, all staring. The cement was peeled back. Then soil, then something soft. A wrapper, a dress, tiny shoes. Then a body, then another, then a third. They screamed. One woman fell to her knees. A man shouted, "Jesus, these are children." Someone fainted near the door. The first body was Amaka, her wrapper still tied around her waist. Muna and Favor lay close, hands curled, eyes closed like they slept in sorrow. The police turned to Bartho. He was standing behind them. No shoes, just silence. They said, "You're under arrest." He didn't run. He didn't argue. He just dropped his Bible and cried. They handcuffed him gently. He walked with them like someone already buried. Cameras flashed. People shouted. Others watched quietly, not believing their own eyes. He killed them, our pastor, but he prayed for me last week. At the station, they asked questions. He answered everything. No lies, no shouting, just tears. In court, the judge stood. The crowd waited, eyes wide, pens ready, mouths closed. Then everything paused. He was given life imprisonment. He sat in his prison cell, staring through the bars. He never wanted any of this. All he ever wanted was for God to use him. All he ever had was faith. But the old woman had opened a door he should never have walked through. And every night, as he lay on the cold prison floor, he remembered that it all began the day he stopped believing that prayer was enough. He was a man of God, but power, not given by God, had buried everything he loved forever. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, share with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more African folk tales just like this one. Thank you.